You're listening to Grid Money. Let's get into our Week 2 overview of the NFL. It's our goal here at Knowtheodds to give you the best possible advice for anything that you're laying money down this NFL season. Doesn't matter if it's bets and wagers or fantasy teams. We want to help you out the best way we can. Hope you had a great week 1, successful week 1. If you followed our favorite bets of last week, then you did all right. There's a few upsets last week that may have got you, but that's to be expected in any week. And the goal is to try to predict which upsets are going to be. That's the whole game. But it was a good week for us. We're going to go over what happened week 1, and then we're going to cover some of next week's favorite bets and fantasy players. And then I want to talk a little bit about bankroll, how much money you should be bringing to bet with, how much you should be placing on each individual bet, and what the best possible strategy is to maximize your gains and minimize your losses this football season. Well, our number 1 bet last week was that the Packers would beat the Bears on Thursday Night Football. And they were listed as the underdogs. And we saw that as an emotional line that was laid down. I don't really see how the Bears or the Packers could be an underdog in that situation. My favorite bet is to place the money lines whenever you can. Underdog money lines is the majority of my bets. If the lines aren't there, or if it's just not, if the mismatch in the Vegas line and what I'm thinking isn't quite there, then I'll go to the spread, which is what the other 2 bets we had last week. And then I have not found a good strategy for betting totals. It's very hit or miss. And this coming week, all the totals are between 43.5 and 52 points. And I feel like Vegas doesn't even really know with complete accuracy what the total's going to be either. They're just taking educated guesses on the teams that are playing, and then basing that off of some average number in the upper 40s. And it makes sense because that's the average score of a football game. But I just haven't figured out a good way to capitalize on those. So I usually stick to money lines and point spreads. We took the Rams to cover the spread against the Panthers, to win by 3 points. The Rams, I believe because of Todd Gurley, are struggling a little bit more than expected. He may not be fully back to health, and it could possibly affect them by a few points per game this year, and that's something that we may need to take into effect on these future bets and wagers. Maybe it will to get a play in on it. So that bet resulted in a push. We had the Chargers to cover the Colts by 7 points. And they won by 6 points, did not cover, so that resulted in a loss. But with our Packers win, depending on how much you laid on each team, we'll talk about that in a little bit, but we are up about 2% this week, and we're looking to add to those gains in week 2. Let's cover who we think is going to stand out from a Vegas lines perspective in week 2. I got 4 bets for you this week. I got 2 money lines and 2 spreads. First up, Patriots are going to Miami and playing the Dolphins. Dolphins are pretty uncontestedly one of the top 3 worst teams this year. Not much expected from them. Patriots, pretty undisputably one of the top 3 teams. That being the case, I do believe that the Patriots winning by 19 points is a little bit of a stretch. Here's why I think that. There were 2 major blowouts in week 1. Those were the Ravens beating the Dolphins and the Patriots beating the Steelers. This line of 19 points would make sense if you believe that the Dolphins had an extremely bad game and the Patriots had an extremely good game. That is not really the case. Dolphins played okay, and the Patriots had a fairly normal game, putting up 33 points. The reason that this line is so emotionally high, I believe, is because the Ravens had an abnormally good game, which has nothing to do with the Patriots-Dolphins game next week. And the Steelers had an incredibly bad game week 1, which again has nothing to do with the Patriots-Dolphins next week. But those two teams' performances are being accounted for in the line. In my mind, that is not good rational handicapping, and it has influenced Vegas's line for this game. Patriots will win, but it will not be by more than 19 points. So that's bet number 1. Up next, we have the Seahawks facing the Steelers. Like we said, the Steelers did have a bad game last week. They had moments where they were clicking, but it's amazing how much less of a threat they appear without Antonio Brown. Juju Schuster's doing great. James Conner's doing great, but they just don't appear to approach the game with the same amount of ferocity this season. I'm counting on that to continue against the team that seems to be on fire this last week. They were pulling out some good plays. The Seahawks are listed as the underdogs, however. And they have got a money line against them at plus 165. The Steelers are favored to win by 4 points. I'm saying the Seahawks pull off an upset, which, again, much like the Packers game last week, it's not going to be an upset. I think that the Seahawks should be favored in this case, but Vegas has them as the underdogs, so we'll take those odds and play it against them. Seahawks to win against the Steelers. Up next, we've got another spread. Kind of a similar situation to Patriots-Dolphins game. The Cardinals are going to play the Ravens. Cardinals started off very poorly. They pulled it together and did great. I still don't have that much faith in Kyler Murray. I don't know anybody that really does, except Cardinals fans. Like, go for it. But he's not going to be their saving grace this year. That being said, Lamar Jackson is not going to be facing Kyler Murray. He's going to be facing the Cardinals' defense. And that is what I believe is going to be the factor that they did not have against the Dolphins last week. And it's not going to be as big of a blowout as Vegas is saying. They have them at a plus 13 points this week. And it just seems a bit much. It's going to be less than a 2-score game, I believe. Kyler Murray found a way to pull it together and almost get the win. They're 0-0-1 now. And that Cardinal defense now has some video that they're going to be studying all week from the Ravens game and what made them successful. And they're going to, whatever worked for the Ravens last week is not going to work against the Cardinals defense this week, and which is going to make it a much closer game than the average bettor is expecting. So the Cardinals cover the spread of 13 points against the Ravens. And bonus bet number 4, we have the Saints beating the Rams, moneyline bet. Again, we have a line coming up from Vegas that doesn't make any sense to me. The Saints are on fire. They crushed it the other night on Monday Night Football. They have all their weapons. They're doing very well. The Rams did not do so well. They won their game, but it didn't look pretty. And with Todd Gurley taking a few points away from what he should be getting for them this year, it doesn't make sense to me why the Saints are listed as the underdog at plus 120. Not as big of a line as I would normally like to take in a money line bet, but if anything, it just shows that Vegas still isn't really quite sure about this. But it'll be the NFC Championship rematch, and you better believe that the Saints are going to be out for blood, and I think they're going to find it. Saints are going to win it this week against the Rams, plus 120. I want to talk a little bit about bankroll. How much money should you be bringing to the table to bet with? There are a ton of strategies and theories out there, and I just want to share a few thoughts on what I think is an ideal strategy for minimizing losses and maximizing gains in any way possible. These are just my thoughts. First of all, you should never be betting with any money that you're not 100% comfortable with losing straight out. It should never be with money that you're saving with some goal in mind. It should completely be money that you had no plans for and that is not going to affect you in any way if you lose it. If you do start using money that you have plans for in any other way, it may be signs that there is a problem starting to creep up. Everybody is susceptible to addiction. It's just the facts of life. If you feel like you have a problem with that, you can reach out to me at knowtheodds.net, and I'll do my best to help out with resources and I'll just talk to you one-on-one if I have to. But that is available to you. Now, if you're doing that correctly, you're bringing money that you're able to lose. You might as well be as efficient with it as possible. Most people will tell you that you can bet anywhere from 1 to 5% of your bankroll. I take a more aggressive approach with it, so I stay on the 5% side of that. Each bet that I make is 5% of whatever I have in the account to bet with. That means if you have $100, you're making $5 bets, $1,000 bet, $1,000 bankroll, you're making $50 bets. And the nice thing about this, it makes it easier to only bring money that you're okay losing, that you don't have plans for, is you can go down to, I'd say, minimum you should bankroll that you should be betting with is around $40. That's $2 bets. If you're making sound decisions, it'll still take you a while if you get incredible bad luck to lose 50% of your bankroll. Even down at $20, you can still continue to make those $1 bets to work your way back up and make some gains. Now, if you look at this on a micro level, let's take $100, for example. You're making a $5 bet. Depending on if you win or lose, you're going to have a new total for the next bet that you make. So your next bet is going to be either 5% of $95 or 5% of $105. In this way, if you lose, you're going to be betting less. If you win, you're going to be betting more. This is how you can maximize your wins and minimize your losses. You have to have a system when it comes to betting. If you're approaching a bet saying, oh, I believe in this one more, so I'm going to put more money in it, or this one's less, so I'm just going to throw a little bit of it, you're going to see some hard wins and some difficult losses with an inconsistent strategy like that. Approach your betting system with consistency, and you'll have predictable results. Now, this strategy also depends on how many bets a week you're making. Football makes that a little more difficult because all the games are at once. With basketball or any other sport, really, you kind of have a turnover rate of a game per day. You find the bet that you want to do, you make a bet, you have a new total that night, and then you know what you're going to bet for the next day or the next week or whatever you're planning on betting. I will usually have about 8 bets that I want to go through each week in football. The best way that I've found to do that is to divide the day up into sections. You got your Thursday night game if you want to put action on that. You got your Sunday morning games. You got your Sunday afternoon games, Sunday night games, and Monday night games. Divide all your games into those sections. If you have too many bets in one section, you may have to get rid of some. It's not a good idea to throw 5%, 5%, 5% all into one section at once. The smaller the section that you can divide your bets up into, the better. If you're betting on first quarter, you could bet on first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter, so long as you're getting a new total before you calculate what your next bet is going to be. Consistency. That's the best way to ensure that you're going to maximize your gains and minimize losses in this world of sports betting. Well, that's about all I have for you today, guys. Go check out our fantasy rankings page on knowtheodds.net, as well as you can listen to our podcast there, as well as iTunes, Google, Spotify, or YouTube. We wish you the best of luck this week 2 of the NFL, and we'll see you next time.